Introduction to Rules of Origin. Hi there. In the previous Tools Club video, the new UK-EU trade agreement, we briefly explored a few aspects of the UK-EU trade agreement. And, as we saw in that video, trade between the UK and EU is now processed by Rules of Origin. And if you don't know what Rules of Origin are, that's okay. I didn't either. So, you are in the right place. Hurrah! And I'll introduce and explore Rules of Origin with you now. But also, as with all Tools Club videos, I'll keep it simple and at a beginner's level. Fab. And if you want to find out more about Tools Club, click more info. And we are in part 2 of a Customs and Standards Primer. That's nice. Introduction to Rules of Origin, a means to identify the nationality of goods, and generally, a necessary component of a trade agreement. Fab. Focusing now just on UK and EU trade. Rules of Origin now apply to goods moving between the UK and EU. In order for traders to benefit from the 100% tariff liberalisation, i.e., the zero tariffs on UK and EU goods, they have to meet the requirements of the Rules of Origin. To start with, where do these rules come from? Okay, great. Jumping to page 21, down a bit. And we see. These rules are negotiated as part of any trade agreement. When negotiating a trade agreement, each contracting party agrees upon Rules of Origin. But for what purpose? Why are Rules of Origin needed? As one might expect, they determine the inherent nationality of a product. And this is vital for the purposes of allocating the correct duties for individual goods movements. And we'll get a better idea of how this works a bit later on. But by setting the correct tariff for each goods movement, Rules of Origin also prevent traders from other countries not involved in the trade agreement from accidentally or fraudulently benefiting from the preferential tariffs only meant to serve the legitimate parties of a trade agreement. In this case, the EU and UK. But how might countries not involved in a particular trade agreement subvert a trade agreement to their benefit? Well, hypothetically, and as a throwaway example, let's imagine that imports from a third country are charged specific rates of duty, often copied from WTO tariffs, and in general, more expensive than duties set within a trade agreement. So, to reiterate, Rules of Origin ensure the correct duties are charged for goods movements at customs borders. And so, theoretically, without Rules of Origin, traders from outside of the EU and UK could route their exports via one contracting partner to the other, and, more easily, find a way to pass off their goods as qualifying for the cheaper trade agreement tariffs, rather than paying the correct and more expensive tariff as allocated to the actual third country of origin. In this way, the correct tariffs are circumvented. A purely theoretical example. But customs controls using Rules of Origin are designed to prevent such outcomes. Hurrah! And central to this is the information supplied by traders. Very interesting. We'll get a better understanding of this shortly. First, let's look at the certificates and paperwork involved. Okay, great. A certificate of origin, otherwise known as a proof of origin, is required to prove your goods qualify for rates of duty, as specified in the trade agreement. Tell me more. Okay. Guidance: get proof of origin for your goods. Let's say you are a trader in GB. If you're trading overseas with another business in a country that is part of a trade agreement with the UK, for example, a country in the EU, then any related goods movements are likely to have a reduced or nil rate of customs duty at the border. However, this is dependent upon the origin of those goods. And, as a safety measure, and to prevent just anybody from fraudulently claiming such relief, you have to prove that your goods qualify for rates specified in the trade agreement in order to claim the reduced or nil rate of duty. So, unless otherwise stated in the trade agreement, a UK or EU trader will need to provide proof that they can claim preferential duties on goods they are importing. And we're not delving too deeply into certificates or proofs of origin right now. But such proofs or certificates can be in the form of an EUR1 or an EUR-made movement certificate, an origin declaration, importer's knowledge, or a generalized scheme of preferences form, A. And we will touch on one or two of these again, but later in this video. For now, we see the type of form or certificate needed depends on the type of goods and where they're being imported from or exported to. And we explore the concept of free circulation in another Tools Club video, but for now, we see You can note your proof of origin on the ordinary customs declaration used for applying to get your goods into free circulation within the destination country. The destination country, in this case being the UK or anywhere within the European Union. The point I want to make is that rules of origin are applied when completing one of these certificates, proof of origins, etc. And in turn, these documents are then used as proof that your goods movement qualifies for the appropriate preferential rates of duty as specified in the trade agreement. And that's nice. But to drive home the point, even though we have a zero tariff free trade agreement between the EU and UK, the application of this trade agreement is predicated by the rules of origin and what the resulting calculations and proofs of origin say about your goods. And as we saw, the results of rules of origin calculations, as summarized on the certificates of origin, are included with the customs declarations that traders submit when applying for their goods to cross customs borders in order to enter free circulation within the destination customs territory. But having said that, close out of here. Let's jump to page 21 and scroll down a bit. And we see, as part of the staged approach to the new UK customs border, we see, from the 1st of January 2021 to the 30th of June 2021, traders will have up to 6 months to complete customs declarations. How does this affect rules of origin? Well, this approach grants traders extra time to make necessary arrangements to evidence their claim to the preferential tariff rate. And this extra time may well come in useful for many traders attempting rules of origin for the first time. Because, page 63, as we see, and as a caveat too, rules of origin can be one of the more challenging aspects of completing a customs declaration. The practicalities of rules of origin can be complex, and in these cases, especially for first-time, inexperienced traders, it's a good idea to take expert advice to ensure compliance as an importer or exporter. So, the 6-month grace period we just saw could indeed be much needed. Very interesting. And as a second caveat, back to 21. Down a bit. With any transaction under the trade agreement, both the importer and exporter are obliged to be aware of the origin of the goods. Even though the importer generally pays the tariff, both the importer and exporter must have in their possession evidences specific to their goods movement, as also specified in rules of origin. And we'll see what these evidences consist of a bit later on in this video. But if they fail rules of origin requirements, the more expensive global tariff, based on the WTO tariff, may well be applied to the associated goods movements instead. Next, a quick sidestep. I want to briefly distinguish between rules of origin and country of origin. Page 34. And you might see country of origin in reference to health certificates and maybe import pre-notifications too. But these are separate and distinct from proofs of origin. And as we have our work cut out in this video, we'll discuss health certificates and import pre-notifications in a later video in this series. For now, back to 63. And to follow rules of origin calculations. But we'll learn more about this a bit later too. But for whom and when do these calculations come into play? So, as a simple example, let's imagine, just for a moment, we're importing and exporting umbrellas or some such product, and still focusing on goods movements between the UK and EU. We see, as part of the trade agreement, calculations, as directed by rules of origin, may now come into play for UK importers if parts of the imported umbrellas are produced outside of the European Union. And for UK exporters, the same calculations again come into play if parts of the exported umbrellas come from outside of the UK. And we can understand, under the UK-EU trade agreement, that the equivalent applies to EU traders too. That's nice. But, and just to highlight and reiterate, tracing and collating the correct origin of goods information can be difficult when one or more components of a product are made in different parts of the world. In our umbrella example, this might be the umbrella spokes, or parts of the spokes, umbrella handles or parts, cover material, casings, and parts might come from here, there, and everywhere. And we can imagine, on such occasions, it would indeed be a good idea to seek help from a customs intermediary. And in 2020/2021, in another Tools Club video, we saw that the UK government provided grants to businesses to help out with costs relating to this very purpose. Scrolling down a bit, we also see traders can not only apply to HMRC for an advance ruling on commodity codes, but also the origin of their goods. And we discussed commodity codes and the trade tariff tool in part 1 of A Customs and Standards Primer. We are now in part 2, and this time, we'll use the trade tariff tool again. But this time, as a useful tool to better understand rules of origin, as beginners. And all this, later, in this video. Great. Next. Let's scratch the surface, and delve a little deeper, into concepts and calculations as they relate to rules of origin. Wholly obtained goods, and distinguishing between originating and non-originating. You might see terms such as, wholly originating goods, or, wholly obtained goods, or simply, originating goods. Taking EU-UK trade agreement rules of origin as our example. Then, we can understand that goods that wholly originate in either the EU or UK can qualify for preferential tariffs, as agreed in the trade agreement. However, if goods are not wholly originating goods, not wholly obtained from the EU or UK, then a calculation needs to be done to find out what percentage of the product was obtained from elsewhere. And we'll touch upon these calculations in due course. But before that, and because there's probably more to it than meets the eye, let's see if we can find out more about these terms. Wholly originating goods and originating goods. Okay, great. Well, okay. We might as well jump to the new EU-UK trade agreement. Trade and cooperation agreement between the European Union and the European Atomic Energy Community of the one part and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland of the other part. Cool. We will skim through pages as we progress, so do pause to read as and when you like. I'll pop in reminders to pause and read here and there too. But also, keeping it simple. Where you see the word party in this document, think EU or UK as appropriate. Okay then. Let's start with wholly obtained products. What are these? These products qualify for the preferential tariffs agreed in this trade agreement. And to find out more, let's go to page 28. Scroll down a bit to wholly obtained products. And we see item 1. The following products shall be considered as wholly obtained in either the EU or UK. And these are mineral products extracted or taken from its soil or from its seabed. Plants and vegetable products grown or harvested there. Live animals born and raised there, etc., and so on and so forth. I won't read it all out. So, take a moment. Pause to read if you like. 13 points providing an overall definition for the term, wholly obtained goods. And scrolling down to the last point, we see wholly obtained goods are defined exclusively from the previous 12 points. And that's great. But what about originating and non-originating products? Up a bit to page 27. And just to help distinguish, we see under definitions, item F, non-originating materials are any materials not qualifying as originating according to this chapter. And we'll find out more as we go along. But also, any materials whose originating status cannot be determined also qualify as non-originating. And to add to this, if a product is not wholly obtained from the UK or EU, then these terms, originating and non-originating, are used in the context of working out which tariff applies to a goods movement. And as with wholly obtained goods, originating goods are also applicable for preferential trade agreement tariffs. And ultimately, non-originating goods are not. And in this latter case, tariffs are based on a global WTO tariff. But it's not quite as simple as that. Hurrah! Depending on circumstances, a product can switch from non-originating to originating. How is this possible? Products containing just some non-originating materials might still qualify as originating. And the processes that non-originating materials undergo can affect their non-originating status too. Let's find out more. Scroll down just a bit to general requirements. We see item 1. Essentially, for the purposes of allowing one-party preferential tariffs on imports from the other party, the imports must satisfy all other applicable requirements of this chapter, as well as any of the following. A. Imports should be wholly obtained, as defined by the 13 points we have just seen. B. This also includes products produced exclusively from originating materials. Also, C. Products produced in one party that actually incorporate some non-originating materials can qualify as originating, on the condition they satisfy the requirements set out in Annex Rig 2, Product-Specific Rules of Origin. We'll take a look at this in just a second. Before that, we also see item 2. If a product has acquired originating status, the non-originating materials used in the production of that product shall not be considered as non-originating when that product is incorporated as a material in another product. And we can see how this sort of thing might help simplify matters somewhat for manufacturers and producers. Item 3. The acquisition of originating status shall be fulfilled without interruption in the United Kingdom or the Union. Interesting. I'm guessing this is to do with continued, unbiased, fast and efficient customs processing. Cool. Moving on. Annex Rig 2, Product-Specific Rules of Origin. This actually contains our rules of origin. So, to prepare, let's view introductory notes for Annexerig 2 as given in Annexerig 1. Duplicate this tab. Page 415. Introductory notes to product-specific rules of origin. Herein, Annexerig 1. As an aside, if you want to learn more about EU directives and harmonized standards, watch the Tools Club video, Conventions and Controls. Great. So, as we know, originating goods get preferential duties at the customs border. Fab. In Annexerig 2, any rules and requirements, controlling whether a product can be deemed as originating, are organized as a structured list. And this forms part of the harmonized system. We'll see the structure of the harmonized system when we look at Annexerig 2 shortly. After that, a quick look at a rules of origin formula. This then followed by an interpretation of an example rule. So, structure first, formula second, rules third. All simplified and all for beginners. Hurrah! But do pause to read where you like if you want to absorb a little more. As a heads up, these rules are made up of requirements that can involve one or more of the following: a tariff classification, a production process, a maximum value, or net weight of the non-originating materials, minus packaging, but there may be item-specific requirements specified too. Okay. Don't worry too much about these things now, no doubt we'll see these items again, when we try to decipher and understand an example rule, later, in this video. For now, let's absorb some more of these notes. To get a better idea of the structure. Under Note 2 we see the structure of the list of product-specific rules of origin. And to reiterate, this forms part of the harmonized system, providing product rules of origin. Keep in mind that the other part of the harmonized system provides commodity codes, duty and VAT rates. And we'll explore and uncover more about this in a short while too. For now, point 1 tells us that if there are any extra notes, footnotes, comments etc. given, these are to be read in conjunction with the rules of origin. Fine. I guess we'll see what this means later, when we try to interpret an example rule. Point 2. In very simple terms, this indicates that rules of origin are given in a 2-column table. Column 1 indicates the product type. As you will see, column 2 holds the actual rules themselves, as well as section and chapter titles. Point 3 simply tells us that there can be more than one rule for a given product type. And as long as at least one of the given rules is satisfied, then your product will be considered as originating, and therefore, a likely candidate for preferential tariffs at the customs border. Hurrah! Point 4 tells us that if there are different requirements for any given rule, for your product type, in column 2, then all rule requirements must be met, before your product can be considered as likely originating. Point 5 gives us more information about the structure of the 2-column table. And this table is divided into many rows. And in column 1, a row indicates a product type, by using a section, a chapter, a heading, and a subheading, in combination. Well, as text would be too long. Is this done using codes? Yes indeed. As we'll see. Numerical codes. Column 1 will also contain numerical codes. Great. So, let's look at that right now. Duplicate this first. And Annexerig 2. Page 423. Okay, great. Keep in mind that a combination of a section, chapter, heading, and subheading identifies a category of product, as given in column 1. And regarding the structure and organization of rules of origin, section headings and chapter headings, these provide labels, or titles and subtitles, in the second column. But each rule is woven into the associated headings and subheadings, found under the section and chapter titles. And all this forms the product-specific rules of origin bit of the harmonized system. And to reiterate, don't worry about trying to understand rules in column 2 at this stage. We'll get to that later. For now, just structure. So, what is a section? If we look at point 5a, we see section means a section of the harmonized system. But we'll see what this means shortly. Right now, we see section 1 here as live animals, animal products. Scroll down a bit. And section 2, vegetable products. And down a bit more. Section 3, animal or vegetable fats and oils, and their cleavage products, prepared edible fats, animal or vegetable waxes. And that's nice. Back up to section 1. We see there are a number of chapters within each section. For example, we see section 1 has 5 chapters, in bold. And in column 1, some numerical codes. And numerically speaking, a chapter means the first 2 digits in the rules of origin classification number. For example, for chapter 1, we have 01 over here. Chapter 2, chapter number is 02. and so on and so forth. Next. Headings. And the heading is the first 4 digits in the rules of origin classification number. Let's highlight that as an example. And quite often, not always, a range of headings is given under a chapter title. For example, under Chapter 2 we see heading numbers starting at 02.01, going all the way up to 02.10. But what about subheadings? These are the first 6 digits in the tariff classification number. And we can see one if we scroll down a bit. To Chapter 16. For example, chapter starting with 16. Here we see 1604.19 and 1604.20. But above that, a range of sub-headings starting at 1601.00 and going up to 1604.18. Scrolling up. OK, and next, we'll uncover a little more about the harmonized system for both the rules of origin and the trade tariff. And so, it seems to me that what we see here, this harmonized system, is only part of the story. The numbering system we see here means nothing without more information about the product type, the duties payable, VAT, licenses, and more. And the good news is that not only does the harmonized system provide a framework for product-specific rules of origin, but this harmonized numbering system forms part of the structure for commodity codes too. And therefore, this rules of origin list can be viewed in conjunction with the UK trade tariff tool. Hurrah! Let's do that. Okay, great. Opening the 2021 post-transition version of the UK tariff tool. Whilst doing that, in earlier videos from 2019, in part 1 of a Customs and Standards Primer, I blindly explored the structure of the no-deal version of the UK trade tariff tool. So, if you are a beginner, those early Tools Club videos will help get you familiarized with this tool. Click Start now. And we instantly see the All Sections list. And this. The sections given here look to be pretty much the same as those given in the Rules of Origin table. The numbering for sections, chapters, headings and subheadings all seem to be the same on both pages too. For example, back on Rules of Origin. Let's do a random check. If we scroll down to Chapter 16. Here are both the Section 4 and Chapter 16 titles. And both match what we saw in the Trade Tariff tool. In the Tariff tool, click on Section 4. Prepared foodstuffs, beverages, spirits and vinegar, tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. We see a title listing of chapters 16 to 24. Okay. Let's verify this, back over in the Rules of Origin table. Scrolling down to double check the chapter numbers. Down here. And scrolling down. A bit more. And there we have it. Section 4 has chapter numbers that range from 16 to 24 and Section 5 starts right after that. Okay. And back up to 16. Up a bit more. Chapter 16. Great. So, focusing just on Chapter 16 here, we see headings range from 1601 to 1605. And these have the last 2 subheading digits, ranging from 00 to 69. Great. And I'll take a moment to double check these subheading numbers, 1601.00 to 1605.69 in the Trade Tariff tool. Whilst I'm doing that, it does indeed look like the structure of the Rules of Origin numbering system is taken from the starting digits of commodity codes. In this way, the numbering system for Rules of Origin is easily linked to commodity codes, and therefore, to further information relating to duties, VAT, licensing and more, as found in the UK Trade Tariff tool. And this makes sense. All this together forms the harmonized system, providing a lot of information for any given product type. Do feel free to check out my old videos from 2019, should you wish to learn more about this tool. The 2019 no-deal trade tariff tool structure is the same as what we see here, post-transition, in the 2021 version of the UK trade tariff tool. But remember, there are occasions when the duties applied will depend on the result of certain rules of origin calculations. Whether a product is considered originating in the UK or EU, or non-originating, i.e., from outside of the UK and EU. So next, let's move on to rules of origin calculations. And then an example. Fab. Using the harmonized system of rules of origin. The next thing I want to look at is the bottom of page 416. We see Note 4. Calculation of a maximum value of non-originating materials. Keep going down, just a bit. And we see an equation. Max NOM, a percent figure, equals VNM divided by EXW, all multiplied by 100. So what is VNM? And we have a description down here. Pause to read if you like. I won't read it all out. But for brevity, let's just say VNM is the value of all the non-originating materials used in the production of a product, plus any directly related transport, packing and insurance costs. Then what is EXW? Up a bit. And we see EXW, or ex works price, is the price of the product, payable to the producer, in whose undertaking the last working or processing is carried out. The price including the value of absolutely all materials used, all costs of production, minus a few bits and pieces, and so on and so forth. Also, some calculated alternative version given here. You get the idea. Pushing on. And, so, what is max NOM, percent? This formula gives us the maximum value of non-originating materials used in production. That's nice. And this is given as a percentage of the total cost of production. The max NOM, percent, as we see down here. So, we can understand that a product is an end product, and the result of some sort of production. And we can also understand that if a product has a part number, its components have different part numbers. But the harmonized system applies a subtle and yet wholly different approach to plain old part numbers. To find out more, let's scroll back up to page 416. We see some abbreviations. CC, CTH, and CTSH. As used in the harmonized system of the 2021 UK-EU trade agreement. All agreed materials and products have their place in this harmonized system. And the scope of products and materials is truly mind-boggling. But not to dwell. So, what do these abbreviations do? If you want to claim originating status for your product and claim preferential rates for your goods movements, then these abbreviations control from which area of the harmonized system your material codes may be retrieved. Can non-originating materials be declared from the same chapter as the product? From the same heading as the product? From the same subheading? Pause if you like, because these codes are used in the rules of origin below, to let you know the answers to these questions. For now, in this exercise, the only one that concerns us is CTH. And we see CTH means production from non-originating materials, of any heading, except that of the product. This means that any non-originating material, used in the production of the product, must be classified in a 4-digit heading, of this system, that is different from that of the product, CTH, i.e., a change in heading. Don't worry. Over the next few minutes. And also, to clarify, we'll see how both CTH and the max NOM equation, which we saw down here, are used in the harmonized system of rules of origin. And in the middle of page 416, we see example 1. Definitely pause to read this. Looks scary. Agreed. But we can simplify. Hurrah. And we see 8429.11. That's nice. Make a note of that. And jump back to Annex Rig 2, Product-Specific Rules of Origin. And then down to page 462. Where is it? Okay. There it is. A quick word on these dots and digits. As far as these classifications are concerned, this dot visually helps to identify headings and subheadings. A heading will be 4 numbers with a dot in the middle. A subheading will be 6 digits, where the last 2 are separated by a dot. And I'm guessing the dot is purely a visual aid to help identify headings and subheading. I don't think these numeric codes can be used in calculations. So, these dots are just dots. Not numerical points, as it were. And chapters are only represented by 2 numbers. Anyway, our 84.29 heading falls in this block. This heading range 84.25 to 84.30. So, to start with. And all rules are specified in this second column. And in our case, we have 2 options here. 2 rules to choose from here. The first, CTH, change in heading. As we now know, this means any non-originating materials can be retrieved from any heading other than that of the end product, which in our case is 84.29. On top of this, we see another restriction. Non-originating materials will also not be allowed from heading 84.31. And as no other restriction is included on this line, then I can only assume that any amount of non-originating materials may be used in production with this top rule, as long as the related headings are not 84.29 or 84.31. That's nice. But we also have an alternative. We see an or. This means the other option allowable is that as long as the maximum value of all non-originating materials does not exceed 50% of the ex works price, EXW, those materials can be taken from any heading, including, I assume, the product heading 84.29, as well as 84.31. Interesting. And EXW was the price of the product, payable to the producer, in whose undertaking the last working or processing is carried out. Cool. So let's see if we can now make things more clear and even decipher that example 1. Jumping back to page 416. We might clarify example 1 further if we type these numbers into the trade tariff tool. Jumping over. Pause to read as you like. And 84.29. Let's enter 8429. We don't need the dot, as that is purely a visual aid for us humans. As a reminder, 8429 is the heading of our product. And according to that first rule of origin we saw, we cannot extract non-originating parts for our dozer from this heading. Let's open these up. Oh look. 8429.11. This is the subheading that represents our product type, exactly as given back in example 1. 8429.11. What is that? Track laying bulldozers and angle dozers. Yep. This is our product type. And looking at these other items, under the same heading, 8429, and on the same page, in order to claim preferential duties at the border, we can't use any of these items in the manufacture process of our track laying dozers if these are non-originating. Can you remember the second requirement of this rule? Yes. We also cannot use non-UK or non-EU parts for our dozer if these are given under 8431. Let's look at that. Duplicate this tab. And next, enter 8431. Ah yes. We see parts suitable for use solely or principally with the machinery of headings 8425 to 8430. Parts on this page are central to our dozer. Cool. Let's open these up and have a look. And just to reiterate, although our dozer fits in this heading range, we can't use any of these parts on this page as foreign, non-originating materials in the manufacture process of our track laying dozers and claim preferential customs duties. Fab. So, basically, and to reiterate, if we want to claim preferential tariffs, we need to prove our dozer as originating. And in this case, according to the CTH rule of origin we are following, we can use as many non-originating parts as we like in our manufacture process of these dozers, as long as those parts are not retrieved from here. 8431, or from here. 8429. So let's have another look at example 1. Does it look any better? Yes. I'll have a stab at translation. When the rule for bulldozers requires that non-originating materials are to derive from a change of heading other than 8431, which we saw as parts suitable for use solely or principally with the machinery of headings 8425 to 8430. Then, the use of such non-originating materials, for example, screws from the harmonized system heading of 7318, or insulated wires and electric conductors, heading 8544, and various electronics, the entire of Chapter 85, is not limited. To sum up, if you think about it, preferential duties, as given in the UK-EU trade agreement, are only meant for qualifying originating goods. So, in this example, imagine we manufacture track laying dozers in the UK that we export to the EU. What has been agreed in the UK-EU trade agreement is that we can use any amount of foreign parts from outside both the UK and EU in our track laying dozers as we like, but we'll have to pay full duties as given on third country tariffs, WTO or global tariffs, if parts listed on 8429 and 8431 also originate outside of the UK and EU. But if these particular parts originate in either the UK or EU, then we are more likely to be granted preferential tariffs, as set out in the trade agreement, even though other parts and materials come from outside the UK and EU. And examples of items that can originate outside the UK and EU are shown here. Screws, electric conductors, various electronics, as listed under Chapter 85, and more. Very interesting. But don't forget the other rule. What was that? The max NOM, 50% of the EXW value rule. Fab. With this option, absolutely all our parts and materials can be non-originating. Even parts from 8429 and 8431. As long as the total value of non-originating items do not exceed 50% of the EXW value of the goods. EXW. The value paid or payable to the producer in whose undertaking the last working or processing is carried out, etc. and so forth. And that's nice. Next. Example 2. Let's take a moment to look at this. Pause if you like. Okay. Jump to page 432. 35.05. Scroll down a bit. And the rule for 35.05 is CTH, a change in heading, except from non-originating materials of heading 11.08. Great. Back up to 416. And in the same way as example 1. Products given in 35.05 might be eligible for preferential rates at the customs border, as long as any non-originating materials and components in the product are not, also, from 3505. And not from 1108 either. So let's take a quick look at those pages in the Trade Tariff tool. Great. 3505. Let's expand these. Just to see what they are. Very interesting. Non-originating components of 3505 can't be from here if we want to claim preferential duties. Also, over on the other tab, let's quickly look at 1108. Open these two, just to be nosy. And the same applies here too. And that's nice too. Okay, great. Closing out of here. And moving on to accumulation and processing of non-originating materials. Okay, not to dwell. And back up to page 28. And accumulation of origin. Okay. Down just a bit. This is a different approach, but available in tandem to what we've just seen in example 1 and 2. In this case, we can submit different information as supporting evidence for the originating status of our products, even if those products are composed of materials from outside of the EU and UK, as long as certain requirements are met. And what requirements are those? Let's look at that. We see accumulation of origin. 4 points here, letting us know that a product originating in one party shall be considered as originating in the second party if that product is used as a component in the manufacture of another product in the second party. Great. Very useful. And further details here relating to methods of production. The production methods carried out in a party on non-originating materials may be taken into account for the purpose of determining whether a product is originating in the other party. Added to this, we also see paragraphs 1 and 2 do not apply if the production carried out in the other party does not go beyond the operations referred to in Article Rig.7, insufficient production. And what are these insufficient methods of production? Okay. Let's quickly skip down to the list of operations in Article Rig.7. Page 30. And we see, if the production on non-originating materials only consists of one or more of the following operations, then the resulting product shall not be considered originating. And we see a list of 16 items here, A to P. We see preserving operations such as drying, freezing, keeping in brine, breaking up or assembly of packages, washing, cleaning, etc., and more down here. Pause to read if you like. I'll just quickly read out a footnote down here regarding this first item. Preserving operations, such as chilling, freezing or ventilating, are considered insufficient within the meaning of point A, whereas operations, such as pickling, drying, or smoking, that are intended to give a product special or different characteristics, are not considered insufficient. Very interesting. So, what does this all mean? Which tariff is to be applied on a goods movement? Okay. To sum up, when claiming for best tariffs, as agreed in this trade agreement, the issue centers around whether the goods are originating or not. Originating goods automatically get best tariffs. But also, where non-originating materials are used in a product, these still get a shot at claiming best tariffs. And how is that? I would say non-originating materials need to be sufficiently worked or processed in order to have a chance at being considered as originating when used in production and manufacture in the other party. And to support this, here we see a list of processes, A to P, that, even if combined, will be considered as insufficient to allow any non-originating materials to achieve originating status. Processing has to go beyond what is listed here in order to give a product those special or different characteristics, and the non-originating materials far enough changed to allow a chance at achieving originating status. And that's nice. Useful. But also tasty. What's next? Oh yes. Proofs of origin. Okay. Back to page 28. The fourth point here tells us that exporters need to include sufficient detail on any non-originating materials used in their exports so as to allow such materials to be identified. And this information should be in the form of their supplier declarations or some equivalent document. And this information is needed in order to complete what is called a statement of origin or statement on origin. And as a reminder, earlier we saw mention of an origin declaration. And this was one of 4 or 5 different types of proofs of origin. Anyway, as of January 2021, when exporting from the EU to the UK, a statement on origin can be made out by any exporter where the value of the consignment is €6,000 or less. Above this amount, the EU exporter needs a registered exporter number, or REX number, included on their statement on origin. And that's nice. So, these points here are all also part of rules of origin. Don't forget. Check which type of certificate or proof of origin you will need for your goods movement if you want to claim preferential tariffs and duties at the customs border. Make sure you are using the correct type of certificates and proofs or origin for your situation. And I'll show some sources of help at the end, should you need to find out more about rules of origin and proofs of origin. As an aside, one of the other types of proof of origin is called importer's knowledge. And, as per the name, this is supplied along with an import declaration by the importer. Proofs of origin such as importer's knowledge allow the importer to claim preferential tariffs derived from the trade agreement, as the evidence provided verifies the originating status of imported products. And although the importer and exporter need to hold evidence of proof of origin, only one of these is required to be submitted to support a customs declaration. Not both. Whoever is applying for the relief supplies the appropriate proof of origin. And often, any supporting documents, received and kept by the importer, as part of their importer's knowledge, are usually obtained from the exporter or producer. Okay. Pause to read as you like. But one last look at Article Rig.1, the objective. And also Article Rig.2, definitions. Scrolling down. Classification. Consignment. Exporter. Importer. Material. Non-originating material. Non-originating material means a material which does not qualify as originating under this chapter, including a material whose originating status cannot be determined. And that's nice. Product and production below that. General requirements. Scroll down a bit. Cumulation of origin. Wholly obtained products, do you remember that? Nice. Let's scroll down a little and take a very quick look at tolerances. Page 29. Article Rig.6, tolerances. If a product does not satisfy the requirements set out in Annex Rig 2, certain products could still be considered as originating if they meet conditions set out in point 1, A, B and C. I'll not read these out, so pause if you like. But in brief, the given tolerance levels relating to total weight and total value of non-originating materials, components and parts, as used on goods, under the given rules of origin harmonized system chapter heading numbers, we see here, in 1am and 1b here, may come into play when considering the originating status of a product. But also, if you follow up 1c, you will find a list of tolerance conditions relating to textiles. Rules of origin harmonized chapter headings 50 to 63. And just below. Points 2 and 3 down here add further conditions to the use of paragraph 1. And that's fab. Before closing out of here. Page 415. Annex Rig 1, Introductory Notes to Product-Specific Rules of Origin. Remember this. This annex sets out the general rules for the requirements for a product to be originating. And the general requirements are a change in tariff classification, a production process, a maximum value, or weight of non-originating materials, or any other requirement specified in Annex Rig 1, Introductory Notes, and Annex Rig 2, Product-Specific Rules of Origin. So I hope this here makes a bit more sense to you now. Fab. And that's that. That's nice. Closing. Out. Of. Here. I hope you have found the information in this video useful. But beware. Customs info can change all too swiftly these days. So, consider confirming any details in this, or any other Tools Club video, with sources from gov.uk. A good way to learn and to stay up to date. And if you want to access the UK border operating model, go to gov.uk/transition. Or, you can also watch me open the UK border operating model now, in the new UK-EU trade agreement video, by Tools Club. Click more info to access that video now if you like. Cool. So what's next? As part of our exploration of the 2020 plan for the 2021 UK Customs Border Controls, I want to list some of the more general aspects of the staged UK Customs Border Controls. But in the videos that follow after that, I focus just on SPS controls. If you want to know more about SPS goods and controls, watch those videos too. So, plenty more videos where this came from. Anyway, stay safe and hopefully see you in another Tools Club video.